Another bad team with running backs that we got to talk about, the Cleveland Browns. This is an interesting backfield, Tyler, because we got, Quinshon Judkins, who was a second round pick. We were assuming, okay, he's coming in. And then he got into some off field stuff. There's no contract there on the table. We just found out Pierre Strong actually got cut. So it kind of gives you a little bit of thought, like maybe they'll bring somebody in or they're closer to a deal with Quinshon Judkins as of recording. And Tyler, what always happens when we record, it's like we record and then there's news that comes out literally right after. So if you're watching this and Quinshon Judkins either got the suspension or got signed, just know we're recording this beforehand. But we don't know the status of him right now. And we also know that the team took Dylan Sampson, who has shown his chops as a pass catcher. You also have Jerome Ford, who's kind of been in this role right now. There's been reports that Quinshon Judkins could go back to college. A lot here for this Cleveland Browns backfield, and there's really nobody to trust. Which one are you looking at right now with all the news that's just currently out there?
For me personally, Dylan Sampson. And the reason why Dylan Sampson is we saw in the last preseason game, now he started the game and he got the first touch with the first team offense. Now, he did rotate in with Jerome Ford, and that's probably what's going to happen. But for me personally, like this team made an investment in Jerome Ford. I like Jerome Ford a lot as a prospect. I thought he was very good. And, there's some people who, I don't want to say a lot of people, but like, for instance, Lance Zerloin, one of the top guys at recruiting or looking at scouting incoming rookies, had him ranked higher than Quinshon Judkins in his overall rankings.
It gave
Sampson? Him a better grade. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying like that's the law, like go by what he says, but there were a lot of people, a lot of big film people that really like Dylan Sampson. So I like Dylan Sampson because I think that personally Jerome Ford is kind of just a guy. He's replaceable. They clearly made the effort to replace Jerome Ford in this draft. And if Quinshon Judkins, which it's a tricky situation.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever really seen this before, where a guy hasn't been signed. So like he could be signed tomorrow, or the NFL goes ahead and suspends him. And then like, I have no idea. So like for me personally, I like taking Dylan Sampson. He's honestly pretty cheap. Even if you want to go the route of Jerome Ford, I don't care. Like get one of these guys on your roster because they'll be the potential RB1 for their Browns offense that I think is going to be bad, but I think with Joe Flacco under center, they'll be okay-ish. Like they'll be able to score and sustain some drives. So I think that this running back position could be, if one of these guys ever becomes the lead back, could be pretty valuable and fit. Not pretty valuable, but for 11th, 12th, 13th rounder, that's a value in fantasy football. So I personally like Dylan Sampson, but if you like Jerome Ford, I don't care. Just take one of these guys and just see how it plays out with Quinshon Judkins, because honestly, we have no idea. We have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's weird because Jerome Ford and Dylan Sampson are still priced right now like Quinshon Judkins is a starter.
Yeah.
And Quinshon Judkins is priced right now like he's going to get suspended. Yeah. So it's like all these guys. Yeah. All these guys are like outside of the top 40, 45 running backs, but you talked about it, like one of these guys is going to be on the field, if not two of them, right? So we typically don't see a team have a running back that's just like zero running back that's outside the top 35. Like you just don't normally see that. Some form or fashion, one of those guys is valuable at a flex or RB2 level. And you're right. I think Dylan Sampson is the play here, especially when you talk about like the floor, the pass catching floor. So you're getting probably somewhere in the 3 to 5 targets each game and good value targets, especially with Flacco. They're going to be online, at least for the majority of the early part of the season. You have to factor in if Judkins does get the contract, what does that look like now? Because I'd assume it's not going to be a 3-headed monster. I'd assume if they figure something out with Judkins, he's going to get the guaranteed. He'll probably get suspended, and then they'll figure something out. He'll be the starting, like, main early down back.
Yeah.
And I think that's a valuable role to a degree because the Browns are going to be down in games. But I think giving Judkins 15 to 18 carries, touches a game, like that to me is a value position, and you're going to get that at a significant value. So I think the player I would want is probably Dylan Sampson for the floor. I think upside-wise, I want Quinshon Judkins because we kind of already know what Jerome Ford is, and he's mid at best. There is a
Yeah.
path, though, Tyler, to like if Jerome Ford is splitting work, he is the more reliable back. If we get like Quinshon Judkins is out for 8 games or like they don't get a contract, Jerome Ford is kind of the more reliable back, don't you think?
I mean, he's been there before, and we know like he's been capable in stints with this team. So like it goes back to once again, like I don't. You have a potential starting running back in fantasy football. Like I don't care. Like I went through and I looked at leagues that Jerome Ford was available still in, and I picked him up in the leagues that I was able to, because of like we're getting really close. It's
Yeah.
close. And the other thing too is you mentioned like Quinshon Judkins is I'm assuming will probably face some type of suspension. It
Yes.
may not be 6 because I don't know. The NFL has to go through their legal process, and he didn't actually get committed of it, so
Yeah.
I have no idea. But like it could be 6 games that he ends up getting, and then what happens if like then the Browns sign him week 3, and then he gets a 6. So now he's out 9 weeks, and you're just sitting with Quinshon Judkins, who I don't even know if he'll be able to go on your IR spot. So if
No,
you're just gonna
not
have
with
to
the
leave him on your
suspension.
bench, like that's just not something I really would want to do. But I understand that like if he ends up signing tomorrow and this plays out and he doesn't even get suspended until later in the year, like yeah, you walk into a really good situation. But the last thing I'll say too is I didn't like Quinshon Judkins a lot heading into this year just because I didn't like this Browns offense and I didn't view him as a true workhorse back. I feel like he'll be more of an early down back and splitting some of the third down work. So I wasn't super high on him heading into this year for that reason. But I really like the player. I think he's a very talented player. So I'm already kind of lower on Quinshon, definitely, than like consensus was. And with all this, like I really don't want him at all. So my guy is definitely Dylan Sampson. But you could walk into a situation where Quinshon honestly becomes the best value because he goes way late in drafts and he could play. But once again, we have no idea.
Yeah, and it's
It's
easy to
just
get
so hard.
excited about like rookies too, like Dylan Sampson, even me like talking Quinshon Judkins. It's easy to always go new toy, but like Jerome Ford has kind of been a staple of this Browns
Yeah.
backfield for the last 2 years. Even last year, he finished as a top 35 back. As we talked about, like that's typically what happens in fantasy is somebody becomes a value. He only played 14 games last year and still was a top 35 back. And
I
then the
think
year
he's a really
before
good
that, he
target
was
in
a top
best
20
ball.
back.
In best ball leagues, I think
Yeah.
Jerome Ford is a very good target in best ball.
100% because he's not one of those players you want to start, but it's like he has value. He gets a touchdown or he gets a couple catches. You're talking about a guy who's scoring 15 to 20 points for your team, which we all love. That's what we're looking for. So I don't know. This Browns backfield, somebody will emerge. And when you go through your drafts, I think the hardest part is like finding exactly which one you want. I think having one of them is not a bad strategy as like your RB5 or your RB4, wherever you can get them. If you can get a piece of this backfield for dirt cheap, do it. I wouldn't hunt this backfield until we know a little bit more about the situation, but I think there could be some value there. Let me ask you this real quick before we switch topics on this. The Browns, are you like, is there anybody on this team that you want to draft? Because you get Joe Flacco in there now, you got Judy, we got David Njoku, you got the running. Is there anybody that you actually want to draft, or are you just staying away from this team?
No, I do. I honestly, I do like Dylan Sampson. I have a lot of Dylan Sampson this year, and like for the reasons we talked about, potential lead back for a team like that's valuable for anybody. Like they're always going to have some value in fantasy football, especially once you hit bye weeks, and we have no idea what's going to happen. So I do like Dylan Sampson. The other one is I do like Jerome Ford, or I like David Njoku, and
Yeah.
the reason being is just because he goes later. Now, one thing though I'll say is that this team could become pretty ugly, like the midway point of the season, if
Yeah.
they do
Yeah.
switch over to the rookie quarterbacks, which they probably will do. But as long as Joe Flacco is a starting quarterback, I do think this offense is, I don't want to say underrated, but like slightly underrated.
It
Because I don't
is.
think it's going to be the worst offense in the NFL. I think it'll be capable. Where if like one of those rookies take over, now it's, I don't want any part of this team, probably. Like this goes from okay offense to just probably one of the worst offense in the NFL.
I think it's an underrated offense, but I think it will be super volatile. I think we're going to see some peaks and valleys from this thing. Like Flacco might throw for 351 game. Next game, he might throw for 150. But I do think it would get intriguing if, like, Dylan Gabriel seems a little limited, like a, kind of a short to intermediate passer to me. And then I think the wild card is like if Shador gets there, what does he actually look like on the field going against some of these AFC North defenses? So I think when I think about this, I'm like, it's probably going to be peaks and valleys, but there's going to be some weeks where like, damn, we should have had Jerry Jeudy in lineups. Damn, we should have had David Njoku in lineups. Like it might go crazy. And I'm with you on Njoku. I think he's a super value right now going out the back end of the tight end ones.